District Board of Education virtual regular meeting of Monday, December 14th, 2020. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ennis.
Here.
Mrs. Stepp. Mrs. Russell.
Here.
Mr. Habermill.
Here.
Mr. Johnston.
Here.
All members present.
All right, thank you. Item number 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to
the
flag
of the United
States
of America and to the republic
For which it
for which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under God,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all. Item 5, legislative report, Mrs. Russell.
All right. There was a lot of things listed this time, so I grabbed a handful and I'll just kind of touch on each of them. House Bill 305 was one that talks about the fair school funding plan. I think this might be similar to what I touched on last time. Creates a new school funding plan that has passed the House and is now going to be moving over to the Senate. And then Senate Bill 358, looks like the Senate Education Committee just finalized their work on this Senate bill. It provides flexibility and relief into the 2020-21 school year due to the pandemic. Some specifics could be pertaining to graduation requirements, the third grade reading guarantee mandates, and an exemption from administering state assessments, and prohibiting the Ohio Department of Education from issuing report card grades. They're just all about kind of some leniency with what we're typically required to do and expectations that are typically there because of the pandemic and all the challenges that have been brought forth because of that. And then House Bill 404 extends House Bill 197, which permits boards to hold their meetings electronically through July 1st, 2021. So I think that was originally set to expire December 1st, and that has extended that into July 1st, 2021. That same bill also prohibits penalties for districts for things such as not performing kindergarten readiness screenings or third grade English assessment under certain circumstances, and prohibits the use of student growth measures in evaluations. That's all I got.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Crystal. Item number 6, reports. We're going to start with the superintendent's report, and this evening, Mr. Pempen is not able to be with us, so Mr. Bellata is filling in. Jim?
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Treasurer Klingshirn, and the community members. I'll give a little update about COVID and how it's transforming into our district. The middle school grade 8 boys basketball team is currently in quarantine, and they'll be in quarantine until December 22nd. All other athletic teams are in full participation, practices, games, and so forth, including wrestling, basketball. There is a report of one of our staff members was reported as being tested positive for COVID. Instruction continues to be provided remotely. The Boys and Girls Club of Lorain County is currently housing about 40 students a day from grades K through 5, and they provide help for the students to get onto their Google Classroom and their live lessons. And that's been going pretty well. They've reported that there are some families that are also quarantined, so they're not attending the classes. There are 60 students enrolled in the program in grades K to 5 again, and about 40 showing up every day. And any questions about COVID?
Yep, instruction going well, I hear.
Yes, instruction's going very well. The teachers are doing a great job. I'm sure you're aware we had a lot of professional development over the summer, and many, almost all, participated in some form of training on how to do a better job with the remote instruction. So every teacher is providing live lessons, recording lessons, and there's work, as you know, on their Google Classroom, and I'm getting reports and I'm watching lessons and seeing the principals that are really pretty happy, and parents are happy too with what's going on. The only complaint we get, as you're probably aware, is that it's too much. And we agree it is too much screen time, but in order to get in all of the instruction that needs to be provided, there has to be the time on the computer. That's the only way we can do it. Any other questions? Okay, I'll go on to my next report, which is the obituary or talk about Terry Smith. I think most of you know Terry or knew Terry. He passed away on December 4th, 2020. Terry worked as a teacher for the Vermilion High School for 27 years, where he taught American history, American government, world geography, world history. He also served as a social studies chairperson for 15 years. He served on the Superintendent's Advisory Council for a term and on the Principal's Advisory Committee for many years. He was the treasurer and vice president and president of the Vermilion Teachers Association, as well as on negotiating teams. He advised the yearbook for 8 years and served for 20 years as the teacher's representative on the Board of Education. After retiring from Vermilion High School, Terry worked as at the Fisher-Riddle Funeral Home in Vermilion, and also Cinemark Movies in Sandusky as the head projectionist and trainer for 10 years. Terry attended many of our board members' meetings. He was very involved and very interested in what's going on in the schools and giving some valuable suggestions and information to us. So we give our condolences to his family. Rest in peace.
He was a great supporter of the schools and, as you said, a regular at our board meetings.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. My next item. Justin, I think I read this, right? I mean, I don't think you read it. Recommended resolution.
I'll take the roll call there.
Okay, recommend a resolution for the board to approve a memorandum of understanding between OPSI Local 332 and the Vermilion Local School District, the Vermilion Board of Education.
I'll move.
I'll second.
So what this memorandum of understanding is, currently everybody in the OPSI union is assigned to a classification, whether that classification be bus driver, food service worker, custodian, maintenance, and so on. What this memorandum of understanding is allowing us to do is pull people out of that classification so that we can still get work done with all of our staff rather than just the maintenance folks or just the custodial folks if that is needed. So this just allows us to have everybody in OPSI able to pitch in and get a lot of the work done at the district that we need done.
Any questions? Hey, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Stepp,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0.
Okay, next is the recommendation or resolution for the board to approve Shelley Ennis, board president, to serve as president pro tem for the January 11th, 2020 organizational meeting.
I'll move.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, call the roll.
Oh, go ahead. This is just allowing Mrs. Ennis to preside over our organizational meeting here before we take vote for a new president.
Do I need to abstain from this, or am I okay voting for myself?
You're okay.
All right,
One of the few times you can.
all right. Call the roll, please.
All right. Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Anything
it.
else, Jim, or
That's all.
now, do you want to talk about the, Phil was telling me that this Wednesday, you're going to let parents know that a survey will be coming out?
Right, yes, we're going to let them know that a survey will be coming out soon after winter break, Christmas break, to let them choose whether they want to continue remote education or go to the live instruction, because we want to start. We're not ready to do that yet, but we want them to know it's coming, because we have been getting some questions whether they'll have the opportunity to choose. So we want them to know they will get that opportunity. And once Christmas is over and we see how the vaccine is going and we see how many cases there are, they'll have an opportunity to decide for themselves whether they want to continue with the remote learning or going back full time.
And as of now, the target date for going back in person learning is January 19th. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
correct.
and I know that, based on what's happening in the world, that could change, but,
It could change, but
okay, that's what you're
yeah.
shooting for. Okay,
yep.
all right.
We're also looking, we discuss it a lot, let me tell you, about the elementary school getting back in, because those are the kids that really miss out the most for the instruction.
Mhm.
They need the face-to-face, kindergarten, first, second, third. And not that all of them don't, but those are the primary grades that are having the most difficult time with the remote. So, we talked about them coming back for sure anyway, but we'll have to wait and see what's going on with
Okay,
the spread of COVID.
okay,
I know fourth grade is in the middle school right now, but they're not middle schoolers. Those kids are,
Right.
they should be grouped in, I feel like, with the elementary school still. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
possible, but I have a
Yes.
fourth grader. I think they need to be in there too. They all
Yeah.
do, we know that, but
yeah.
Yes.
there's a big difference from fourth to sixth grade.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, well, you'll be keeping us posted, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bellata.
Sure.
On to item 7, treasurer's report. Justin?
All right, thank you. Number 1, recommend a resolution for the board to approve the financial report for November 30th, 2020, and that is attachment B in your packet.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. So again, going through the entire month, fiscal year to date through the month of November, we'll take a look at the general fund revenue first. November, the district has received 10.7 million in general fund revenue compared to 11 million at this time last year, 10.8 million in 19, again, 11 million in 18, and 10.9 million in 17. So as you can see right now, we're a little bit lower than we are historically by about $200,000. That's no surprise really. The state had reduced our budget, basically our state budget, by $438,000 this year. We're at the midway point almost throughout the whole fiscal year. And we're seeing that reflected in our revenue here, being short roughly $200,000. Moving on to the food service revenue. Through the month of November, food service has received $107,000 in revenue compared to $194,000 at this time last year, $241,000 in fiscal year 19, $224,000 in 18, and $248,000 in 17. This is one of the areas that has been greatly affected by COVID. Again, we don't have the number of students in the classroom. We're not able to produce the same number of meals that we have historically. You know, when this continues, or I should say, if this trend continues, the food service fund will be out of cash right around the middle of January or so. I did, however, just yesterday, or not yesterday, but on Friday evening, receive a report that we did submit right around $65,000 for reimbursement from the federal government. So that'll definitely help. That'll probably push that window further back into February. And again, with as Mr. Bellotta had just said, the schools hopefully will be reopening on January 19th. And in doing so, that will bring students back, that will put our meals back to being purchased. And hopefully this revenue shortfall can take care of itself in the upcoming months. Moving on to all fund revenue. Through the month of November, we have received 11.7 million. At this time last year, we had 12.6 million, 11.4 million in fiscal year 19, $12 million in 18, and 12.1 million in 17. So again, our all revenue is really mirroring our general fund. We're on pace to collect slightly less revenue this year than we have in the last 4 fiscal years. Moving on to our expenditures. Looking at our general fund first, through the month of November, we've expended 11.1 million from the general fund, compared to 10.8 million at this time last year, 9.9 million in fiscal year 19, 10.6 million in 18, and $10 million in 17. You know, the district's currently on pace to spend more than it did in the previous 4 fiscal years. And some of the reasons for this, they can be attributed to, you know, A, higher negotiated salaries. B, we've had some significant increases to our health insurance and dental insurance costs. And then we've also had some additional expenditures, quite a lot of expenditures really, for COVID-19 that we haven't had in the past. So again, you know, you couple receiving less revenue from the state, and then you have, you know, higher operating costs each year. And of course, during a pandemic, we're going to have a little bit higher expenditures this year than we have in previous years. Taking a look at food service expenditures by month. Through the month of November, we've expended 241,000 or so from the food service fund, compared to 300,000 last year at this time, 209,000 in fiscal year 19, 294,000 in fiscal year 18, and 240,000 in fiscal year 17. So as you can see, our revenue for food service is all over the place, but our expenditures are really pretty consistent. They always stay about the same year after year. They are a little bit lower this year, though, than they have historically been. And moving on to all fund expenditures by month. Through the month of November, we have expended as a district 11.7 million from all of our funds, compared to 12.5 million at this time last year, 10.6 million in fiscal year 19, 11.8 million in fiscal year 18, and 11.1 million in fiscal year 17. So again, once you pull all the everything away from the general fund and you look at all of our spending, what we're seeing is we're spending money out of other sides of things. You know, before we hadn't had a student wellness and success fund, which we do now, which was set up by the governor. We didn't have a safety and security levy, which we have now. We have COVID money that we didn't have before that have been spent down already. So we're not seeing a lot of the things come out of the general fund as we historically have. But when you look at everything as a whole, you do see that our spending is about in line, a little higher than normal, but about in line with where it has been historically. Looking at cash from the general funds through the month of November, the district had a total of 15.67 million in cash compared to 16.37 at this time last year, 15.61 in 19, 14.4 in 18, and 14.9 in 17. So as of right now, last year at this time was the high water mark for us. We're down slightly, but we're pretty much right in line with where we were in fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20 there. Fiscal year 19, I'm sorry. Looking at food service cash, the district has a total of $39,907 in the food service fund compared to 273,000 at this time last year, 332,000 in 19. 198,018 and 226,017. This is the one area that you can significantly and quickly see the impact that COVID is having on the districts. Food service in particular is particularly hit hard. And then lastly, we want to take a look at all cash for all funds. All cash for all funds here through the month of November, we have a total of 19.3 million in cash compared to 19.6 in fiscal year 20, 18.8 in 19, 17.8 in fiscal year 18, and 18.6 in fiscal year 17. So again, we're in a good position, all cash financial. It's just the money's coming out of different accounts at a different rate than they historically have been, just based on the new programs that have been offered to us. So all in all, we're pretty much on pace from an all cash standpoint to where we were at this time last year as well. And then moving on to our investments. Our investments have taken a significant hit as well. Through November, we've earned a total of $77,798.84 on interest, compared to $148,703.92 last year. That's a difference of almost half. It's $70,905.08 or 91.1% difference less. Reason for that, our Star Ohio is producing, I think the last result was a 0.03 basis point there. It's not producing hardly anything right now. Our Huntington account, based on the Feds dropping the interest rates as low as they are, we're not earning anything on our Huntington account either. And our US Bank, which is the meter accounts that we have for our long-term investments, that's producing right now around 1.53% interest on our investments there. So that's where we stand right now. Our long-term investments with US Bank are producing, they don't ebb and flow as quickly as Star Ohio does. Star Ohio, though, is liquid for us. We can pull that cash out and put it into our checking account on a moment's notice. So that is the one good thing. It keeps us completely liquid and earns us a little bit of interest. Whereas the US Bank, we can't pull that out right away. It's not liquid, but it does earn a higher percentage for us. Nevertheless, though, our investments this year, we're not able to produce the same results that we had last year. And that is all I have on the financials. If anybody has any questions.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
Mrs. Innes.
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp.
Yes.
Mrs. Russell.
Yes.
Mr. Habermill.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0. Number 2, recommend a resolution for the board to approve the non-appropriation addendum between ComDoc and Vermilion Local School District and the 412 certificate, and that is attachment C in your packet.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I missed the second. Was that Crystal?
Yeah.
So this is for a new mail machine. So right now we have a couple machines, one at the high school, one at the middle school, and one at the elementary school. Our previous provider, Pitney Bowes, they They had our program, I believe it was a 5-year or a 4-year term. It was originally approved back in 2016. We're out of contract, or we will be out of contract with them here shortly. Mr. Bergman, Sean, our IT director, had met with ComDoc to go over some of these new machines and how they work and everything. And the solution that ComDoc would provide to us was A, more cost efficient than we currently have, and B, the machines that are currently at those schools are large and unwieldy, basically. So the newer ones are much more compact, much smaller, gives us a lot more space in those tiny offices. And again, it's going to be about a $60 a month savings to the district. And so this contract would approve that. And the 412 is just because it's a multi-year contract. It allows me to certify that we have the finances available to pay for that contract.
Any questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Innes,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp,
yes,
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0. Number 3, recommend a resolution for the board to approve the mutual aid agreement between Vermillion Local School District and Firelin's Local School District to extend fiscal office support, accounts payable and receivable, and payroll and the payroll department in the event of a disruption of service caused by any event resulting in employees not being able to perform their duties in a timely manner. And that is attachment D.
I'll move.
I'll second.
What this is just a mutual aid agreement, as it says there. Myself and Miss Agnew, the treasurer at Firelin, had reached out to one another, and this is just a protection in case we have any disruption of service between our departments. If anything were to happen, whether it be pandemic related or just in general, were to happen, we can rely on one another to utilize each other's fiscal office to support each other, to make sure that everybody is still going to receive a paycheck. All of our bills will still go out. Any type of fiscal office support, they're on the same software that we're on now. And so again, it would be very easy for us to help them out, just as them to help us out if that need were to arise. If that need were to arise, the way the contract is written is the only expense charged to one another is the overtime cost for the employees.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mrs. Innes,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp.
yes,
Motion approved 5-0.
All you've got?
That was it.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, on to item 8, the consent agenda. The superintendent and treasurer recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board, the treasurer, or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately. Number 1, minutes of the November 9th, 2020 regular meeting. 2, adopt a resolution to approve the revisions to the district policies and accompanying guidelines as recommended by Neola for second read as listed. 3, approve the agreement with GCL Education Services LLC, a special needs at-risk education company, and Vermilion Local School District for a student from the district receiving medical treatment at a village residential facility and educational services at a per diem rate of $155 per day. 4, approve the update changes to the transportation section of the VHS Student Parent Handbook on page 31. 5, approve the agreement with North Central Ohio ESC and Vermilion Local School District for services for the hearing impaired fiscal year 21 at a rate of $75 from August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2021. 6, approve the following employment action. Retirement of Gwendolyn Howell, custodian, effective December 31st, 2020. 7, a one-year classified contract for the contract school year to Skylar Shaw, monitor at Sailorway Middle School, and Jonathan Braz, food service at VHS. 8, a one-year supplemental contract for the 2020-21 contract school year to Scott Gillespie, boys 7th grade basketball coach. 9, a one-year classified substitute contract for the 2020-21 custodian, and Joshua Saurus, custodian. Any items that you'd like to have removed from the consent agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll move.
I'll move. I'll second it.
Okay, any questions on any of the items? Very good. All right, call the roll then, please.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell.
Yes.
Motion approved 5-0.
Hey, item 10, public participation. For tonight's meeting, public participation is available through email only. As you can see on your screen there, send an email to boe@vermillionschools.org and you will receive a response within 48 hours. On to item 11, date and location of upcoming board meetings. The January organizational meeting and regular meeting will be virtual meetings. The organizational meeting will be Monday, January 11th, beginning at 6:45 p.m., followed by the regular meeting of Monday, January 11th at 7 p.m. And then regular meeting for the month of February will be Monday, February 8th at 7 p.m. Everybody good with those?
Yep.
All right. Item 12, recommend a resolution to move into executive session for the purpose of matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. I'll move.
I'll second.
All right. And then Sean, you'll put us in there?